In today's video, I want to talk about two of the biggest mistakes that I see when I'm teaching people snowboarding. Now, you'll probably notice the effects of these mistakes because they manifest themselves in your riding as a lack of grip or skidding, which you'll probably be quite aware of, but you might not necessarily be aware of exactly what is causing that to happen. And because you're skidding at the end of the turn, you might kind of get into this trap where you think it must be something that I'm doing at the end of the turn. Perhaps you need to work on your posture, your position, how low you are, something like that. And those things, of course, might help, but very often there's something else that's going on that is causing you to skid and lose grip at the end of each turn. I'm going to go through these two mistakes, how to spot them, as well as how to fix them. But before we get started, I'm just going to very quickly talk about the importance of the arc of the turn, that kind of S shape we want to leave in the snow as we're going down the mountain. Now, it's really important because each time we turn, we're essentially changing direction. Right now, I'm going this way across the slope, and now I'm going the other way across the slope. That's pretty obvious, yes? And we use that smooth arc of the turn to allow us to carry momentum round the turn. And it means if we have that smooth arc at the end of the turn, our momentum is carrying back across the slope in the other direction. But if you make one of these mistakes I'm about to talk about, like I'll just show you, if you do something wrong, then you kind of send your momentum down the slope in a skid rather than across the slope. So, what are these two mistakes? There's one when people transition from the heel to the toe side, which is the one I just did actually, and there's one when people go from the toes to the heel side. So let's start off with that one that I just showed. I'm on my heel edge, coming across the slope, and what I need to do to change edge is cross my center of mass, therefore pass my hips from this side of the board over onto the other side of the board. And by doing that, you can roll the board from one edge to another, and you can smoothly set it on track at the start for your next turn on its edge. But a very common mistake is people struggle to get their hips from behind the board on the heel edge to in front of the board on the toe edge, like that. And what happens is a counter-rotational movement is kind of added in to force the board to get round onto the toe edge. So if I just show you right now, I'm coming across on my heel edge, but if I don't get my hips over the board, I can't get the board to change edge unless I kind of flick the back foot out and counter-rotate my body like that to quickly whip the board round onto the toes. And the problem with that is it means you suddenly lose that smooth arc of the turn, and therefore you don't carry your momentum round back across the slope in the other direction. Rather, you send your momentum going down the slope like this, which is going to mean you end up skidding. Now, the second mistake is when you go from the toes to the heels. And this looks similar, but it's usually caused by something else. So, I will just show you once these guys are out of the way. By the way, as always, I'm filming this video using the Insta360 X3 camera. You can check it out via the link below, and if you purchase through that link, you will get a discount and some free stuff chucked in. And I also get a little bit of commission, just so you know. But yeah, that's how it works. So, this mistake, now I've got clear pieced, toes to the heels. Again, it's all to do about crossing the hips over the board like that. That allows you to get that smooth edge change and leave that smooth arc in the turn to carry your momentum going from one direction to the other direction. Now, a very common thing, and you might not even spot it from this demo, is people do this. Okay, you can see I'm skidding. You might have even spotted that I kicked my back leg out, and you might even be aware that you're doing that. But why did I have to kick my back leg out? I had to get the board, I had to kick the back leg out onto the heel side because the board wasn't rolling onto the heel side because I wasn't crossing my center of mass, my hips over the board. Instead, I kind of pulled them over my back foot, and then that kind of bends my back leg, makes it like a spring ready to be pushed out. But ultimately, because my hips didn't pass over the board didn't change edge, and then I use that kind of kicking movement to get the board from toes to heels. This one is so common. I see it all the time. You just kind of lean back a little bit and then push that leg out like that. Let me just show you once more from overhead, and it might better illustrate my point. So look at my hips, my center of mass on the toe side, it goes over the back foot, and then by pushing that back foot away, yes, I get the board away from me. I now have my center of mass on the inside of the turn, but that's happened because I've pushed the leg away, which has led to skid, which once again means you've carried your momentum from across the slope into going down the slope. So all of this sort of comes together to tell you that really the most important part of the turn is that very top part of the turn. It is the edge change. And if you get the edge change right, if you can roll your board smoothly from one edge to another without any skid, then your board will continue following the nose, moving in that direction, and you send your momentum through the arc of the turn. And it means at the end of the turn, once you've completed that turn, your momentum isn't going down the slope. Therefore, it's much easier to keep the board gripping and going across the slope. So if you find yourself skidding at the end of a turn, it might not be because you haven't got perfect posture or something like that. It might not be because of something that you're not doing at the very end of the turn. It might be because of something you're doing at the very top part of the turn. And that's how I kind of, when I'm watching people ride, I always start there. If you're going to sort of triage problems, I always look at the edge change first. If you get the edge change wrong, there's going to be problems throughout the whole turn. If you've got the edge change right, then yes, that's when you start looking at your lateral movements onto the inside of the turn, how much you're flexed, your posture, all those kind of things. But the most important part of the turn is the edge change. Okay, there's lots of different ways to make an edge change. I've talked about these in lots of different videos. You can use your knees independently. You can stand up to help cross your center of mass over the board. You can even drop down in a down unweighted turn. But in all of these things, in all of these edge changes, your center of mass passes over the board. And that is absolutely crucial to having a nice, clean, good edge change that allows you to get that smooth arc of the turn, which allows you to carry your momentum from going one way across the slope to going the other way across the slope, which is essential for getting the board gripping in the snow. Okay, real simple one today, but guys, check your edge change. You need a good edge change to have the board gripping across the slope like that. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. I'm off to enjoy myself. Woo! Oh, you're still here. Centre of mass over the board at the edge change, carry your momentum across the slope.